So if you could start just by introducing yourself, please.
Morning, Kerr. Very nice talking to you. My name is Henry Howard-Sneyd. I'm chairman of Asian Art at Sotheby's for Europe and the Americas.
Great. And you have an object with you to talk about today.
I do indeed. Well, it's an object in my own collection, and I show it to people. Although it may seem a slightly more humble object, it's something that has taught me a great deal as I enjoy the piece and handle it and own it.
Sure.
It's a piece of Jian porcelain or Jian stoneware from the Song period in China, and I bought it as part of a group lot. Let me just show you the bowl here. I bought it as part of a group lot and thought it's a misfired piece of Jian, not very interesting, and how nice to have, but I'll put it in a box and never really get it out. You can see that on the back here there are plenty of labels, which always indicates it's nice for collectors because it suggests it has nice long provenance and history. And in fact, one of the things that began to attract me to it is the fact that it has the most beautiful patina, the most beautiful surface to it, which is a surface that can only be achieved by being handled and by being looked at, kept in silk, and treasured. So I'm starting in my mind as I look at it to think about it, why should this be? And then if you look a little more closely, and I'll bring this up to the camera to show you, here on the rim, there is a restoration. A piece has been chipped out of the rim and it has been restored using lacquer. And on discussing this with a Japanese art colleague of mine, we recognize that this lacquer is Momoyama lacquer, so probably 15th, 16th century, which means that this piece was treasured in Japan as early as the 15th, 16th century. Now, given that the piece itself is probably 12th, 13th century, and given that it has been kept in silk, there's an obvious question here is, well, how come a piece of misfired Jian should be so treasured? I logged that in my mind and my memory without really having an answer to it until speaking to a dealer in Taiwan who, about this piece, about many things, but about this piece included, and he said, oh, from your description, this must be, and he used a phrase which is in Chinese, but basically translates as ashes of roses.
Wow.
And it turns out that in the 16th century in Japan, the glaze, which is described as ashes of roses, was considered to be one of the most sought after and the most desirable. Of course, today, I show you again, it's considered misfired. But at the time in Japan, in the 16th, 17th century, my understanding is that this would have been treasured, would have been very carefully looked after, and would have been beautifully restored when needing to. So the fact that this tells so much more story than one would ever have begun to think when first picking it up is the piece that endears me to it, and I have to say it's one of my favourite pieces.
Yeah, it has an amazing story, definitely. That leads us nicely on to working from home. How is it for you? How's everything with Sotheby's currently?
Well, working from home, we all have our challenges. 4 kids all doing their lessons on their own computers. It makes it complicated. But actually, I have to say, you find other ways of working through it. Human beings are very resourceful, and there are obviously positives as well as negatives. One of the more extraordinary things has been to see how the online world has really come into its own in many ways. Here we are using a platform called Zoom, which I'd never heard of until my brother suggested it for a conversation with our mother. So here we go into the digital world where my mother barely could manage emails, is now speaking to us in Zoom, and as a company, Sotheby's is doing very similar things, holding meetings using these various platforms. And I have to say, I've been very positively surprised by how well you can continue things and continue doing business in a business that is historically so client-focused and so based on bringing people into the same room to compete against individual items. So, of course, Sotheby's, like I'm sure others, have been working very much using the online platforms, and our online auctions have been a great success around the world, partly because they're not geographically specific, so that allows us to be everything to every person, I suppose.
Yeah, no, great. And that leads us on to Asian Art in London, which of course you are a founding member of.
Yes, actually, back in 1996, 97, London dealers and auction houses gathered together to make a statement about London and how strong it was and remains. And I was part of the group that originally founded it. And during my time, I lived in America for 8 years. I was also part of pulling together the Asia Week New York, which started much later, but is somewhat based on Asian art in London, and served even as chairman of that for 2 years. So it's been very interesting to see the strengths of both platforms coming to the fore. I think the idea of gathering everyone together in the same place, be it digitally or physically, is a very strong one. And the interest and passion for collecting and understanding and studying Asian art is something that won't just go away, even if we're not allowed out of our houses. Yeah. So I think that Asian Art in London continues to have a tremendous amount to offer, and I hope that clients worldwide will continue to tune in, see videos like this, and enjoy what we will continue to offer.
Yeah, of course. And we're all looking forward to physically seeing some art, whenever that may be again.
Well, we hope in end of October, beginning of November this year, we'll be able to bring together the Indian, Islamic and East Asian communities to actually look at the physical art. But as we've discovered, there's so much that museums can offer digitally that and we can offer digitally, that there's plenty to do online as well.
Yeah, brilliant, cool. Well, I think that's everything.
Thanks very much.
Cool, thanks.
Nice talking to you.
Cool. Thanks, Henry.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.